This is Loretta Soffe, and you are now in the Press Row.
Welcome to the Press Row. Behind-the-scenes stories from the world of sports media. Press Row. Insight and interviews from around the sports world. Now here's your host, Jonah Siegel.
Welcome back. Jonah here in the Press Row. A typical, yet mild, guess it doesn't make it typical, Seattle fall morning. Are we in winter yet? It's November or something, but whatever. It is damp. It is cool. It is wet. Got my walk in already, but I am super stoked to talk about one of my favorite passions that haven't talked about a whole hell of a lot here in the Press Row, and that is the fun-filled world of retail. Back a long time ago, I got to delve into that world. Many people don't know that unless you follow me on LinkedIn, which I hope you do. LinkedIn.com/IN/Jonah Siegel. Mr. Producer, you can put that link up if you want. We are really super stoked to have a rock star in the world of retail join us today. She was the former executive VP and general merchandise manager, I should say. That doesn't fit on the back of a hockey jersey. It's too long of a title. At Nordstrom, where she transformed women apparel into a $2 billion business with a B. They could use her today. Increasing revenue by 33% over 7 years. She was a key player in their strategic digital transformation, and you know how much we love that. For those of you not watching, she's currently taking screenshots of this. It's awesome. We love digital people. She helped double their e-commerce sales to $270 million. She is currently a board director with proven success guiding companies through major transformations, including Mondetta Clothing evolution into a global sustainable activewear leader. She is the co-founder of L&J Consulting, helping brands across industries from luxury to mass market stand out in an increasingly competitive landscape. She's known for her customer-centric approach to retail transformation and building high-performance companies culture. Loretta Soffe, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you for that intro.
It is so awesome to have you here today. We've the times that we've met, it has always turned into, after a discussion about local weather, what's going on here, it has always delved into an awesome discussion about our mutual passion for the current state of retail. So before we dive right into that, how did you get into retail? I mean, you've got an unbelievable history, background, level of success in the field. But for younger people that want to get into it, how do you start? How did you start?
You know, such a great question. I actually just delivered a keynote last week on Thursday in New York to a group of ambitious, high potential women in e-commerce and technology. And I told them my story. And the first chapter is answering your question, which is, how did I get started? And the short answer, and then I'll give you a little more detail, is completely by accident. When I graduated from college, I was the fifth child, and my dad made it really clear that I was off his payroll. So if I wanted to stay in the Bay Area, I went to Cal. I had to make it on my own. And I dreamt of a career in sports marketing, and that came and went when I was unprepared for interviews in the job market. And then I also considered going to school, but I couldn't afford studying for tests. I actually had to make money. So I literally hopped in the car with my oldest sister. She was working at Nordstrom in Palo Alto, and she basically hired me en route from San Francisco to Palo Alto to be a cashier. And then I worked my way up over the course of the anniversary sale to being a salesperson. And honestly, 25 years later, I just worked my way at Nordstrom, we say down the pyramid. So I went from accidental summer job to 25 years later, actually the largest job in the company, whose name wasn't Nordstrom. When I had that EVP role, which is how I retired, I literally had the largest job in the company.
And it's amazing, right? Like when I started at Starbucks, when I started at Holt Renfrew, which for those of you in the States don't know, is Canada's equivalent to, call it a Neiman Marcus or a Saks. They made us work in the stores for a week to get that full customer and employee experience. It's impossible to understand either role and understand the consumer experience unless you have an understanding. And a week doesn't give you what you have in 25 years, but until you've actually sat in a store and felt it, touched it, smelled it, heard it, you don't get it, do you?
No, in fact, I mean, how do you coach a job that you've never done? And so at Nordstrom, the philosophy and culture then when I was growing up in the company was promote from within. Every single person, including the Nordstrom family, started on the sales floor, and then you worked your way up. So every job you did, you had a fundamental understanding. And then when you got promoted and you were supporting that person below you, above you, whatever you want to call it, you actually knew exactly how to coach them, what it entailed, where were the challenges, where could they improve, because you actually had done it and figured it out on your own.
Do you think that's still the case? I mean, I interviewed somebody recently, and my advice to them was, if you want to go to company X, go to the store level, go to the cafe level, and get that gig and knock it out of the park. And you will be rewarded for doing good work. And they looked at me like that was below them. Like, I have a college degree. How could I ever go do that? And I said that it shows a degree of humbleness. It shows eagerness. It shows wanting to roll up your sleeves. Those of you on the podcast side, I'm showing my sleeves are rolled up. But it shows that you actually want to do the work, or do the work before you finish your college degree, or just start if you're not going to college. Do you think that's still the right path today?
Totally. And I think that while I'd say that is the right path, there's also a mentality that, as you referred to it, that I'm better than that, or I don't need to do it that way, or I don't want to spend that much time there. I'll do it if it's like a 2-month or 4-month training ground, or, internship type situation. And I would say, you know what? It doesn't work that way. Actually get in there, roll up your sleeves, set some goals, take initiative, prove yourself, and you're going to stand out. But if you're not willing to kind of get gritty and get on that sales floor and actually understand what it's like to serve customers, you're actually never going to be as good as you could be at the subsequent jobs, whether it's managing, buying, or being some type of a mid-level merchandiser.
So help me here, because I know a lot of kids this past summer, especially, were applying for gigs for summer jobs. They're home from college or what have you, with retailers, trying to get that job, to get that experience, and they were turned away. Retailers weren't looking for part-time help. And you have full permission to tell me I'm wrong at any point. My view is, shame on you, retailer, for not hiring these kids. Because if you give them that summer job once while they're in college, they will be loyal. First of all, they've come to you for a reason. They're all into social media. They're going to wear your stuff, whatever it is. They're going to buy your service. They're going to tell the world. They will be your best poster child. They're going to put it on TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, what have you. And it's a 4-year deal, right? If they work for you once, they're probably going to want to come back. If they're home, they may want to work for you on campus if you have one where they are. And then that college thing does end. They may want to come back for a gig after. You should be having a much broader lens and looking to them now as an investment in your future. You can hire somebody pretty much for free on an hourly basis and give them that experience. My sense is that a lot of retailers don't get that.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of anyone having a stint in retail. You learn how to serve customers, you learn teamwork, you learn product, supply and demand, you learn how to shopkeep, how to delegate. I think for a while, retailing got a bad rap, and people didn't really want to work retail. They thought it was kind of beneath them, and they wanted to work in other kind of sexier industries or companies. But I think now that the job market is a little more challenging, there is a little bit of a return to maybe I'll do that. And I think it's time that the retailers kind of wake up, hire some of these ambitious, goal-oriented kids that are actually the new customer that they want. So not only are they going to get, hopefully, smart, hardworking employees, they're also going to get a front line and an insight into the customer that they want. And I think that's invaluable. If if you are the retailer and you have the curiosity and humility to actually use those employees to glean information about your customers or about their preferences, easy. There's such a source of information, a source of innovation and ideas. And I think right now it's a little lost. Where companies are hiring them, it's really obvious. I actually was at the mall in Bellevue, which is one of the most productive malls in the country. I was at that mall yesterday on a Saturday, and it was so busy. And the stores that have figured out how to hire people that can engage with their customers are the ones that are doing well. And
Right.
it creates a much better experience for the customer.
And so how do we get more retailers to get it? Because they've got to figure. No, go ahead.
Sorry, I interrupted you. I actually think how they're going to get it is when they understand that retailing is about an omni-channel experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have to be available to your customer 24/7 in all channels and deliver an incredible customer experience across all channels. So you got to get that. You have to understand that, yes, e-commerce is growing, direct to consumer is important, but the holy grail and the heartbeat of retailing is in the store.
So
let
me just interrupt you for let me just interrupt you for 1 second. So just so everybody understands, my definition of omnichannel is empowering a consumer to shop however, whenever, on whatever they want. So if she wants to start her journey on a cell phone, on a social media channel, and she adds something to her cart, but then moves to a web browser, still on her cell phone, that's okay. But then goes to work and ends up on her laptop, she can continue that journey, that same purchase journey on all three vehicles with the same retailer. That's true omnichannel. And by the way, she can then go into the store and have that same experience. That is true omnichannel. That's what omnichannel means. I'm just trying to give some definition to some terminology.
Yep, 100%.
Sorry, go ahead.
Back when we were kind of building the e-com business, Nordstrom.com, the late Blake Nordstrom used to talk about it in terms of 24/7 on their terms. We need to be available anywhere they want to shop, on any device, in any format, mobile, web browser, laptop, desktop, or physically in the store on their terms. The customer determines how they experience your brand and your product, and you've got to be ready. So I think where I was going with that is, if brands, retailers kind of get religion on the omni-channel topic and understand that the store is the heartbeat of that, that's where customers can actually really engage and experience their brand. And in order to do that, it's like someone coming into your home. You're not going to invite people over and have the lights off and the door locked and the heat off. You're going to have the lights on, the music on, the fire's going. You're going to greet them, and you're going to have a beautiful cocktail. You're going to have hors d'oeuvres, whatever it is that's going to make that experience memorable, loving, and warm. And if brands and retailers can transfer that into the store experience and make it experiential and immersive, whether that's through product, whether that's through some kind of digital experience, but the more they can kind of elevate that and bring it to life through humans, the better they're going to be. And the humans are these people we're saying they should be hiring, and they're not.
Right. And that's why I'm going to dive under the table a little bit when I say this. That's what made Starbucks so unique and so special in its earlier days. And that was it. When I say dive under the table, it wasn't the coffee. The coffee was fine. The coffee was good. It was the experience. Right. When you walked into the store, you were immediately captivated. They were warm. They were welcoming. They had those great, comfy leather chairs. Yes. They had great internet connectivity. They had amazing music playing. The displays had good-looking baked goods sitting there. The people knew your name. If it was your store, They knew exactly what you wanted. You didn't have to ask your name. They put your name on the cup. They knew your order. There was that
Yeah.
human connection. And it was all the elements that you just talked about. It was an elevated experience where they were taking a product that should have cost you $50 to $1.50, and you didn't care that you were paying $4 or $5 for it. That's all the things that it was. And what blew my mind when I went to go work at a luxury retailer was that people are willing to pay very high costs for product if they are given that elevated experience. And that's what happens at the LVMHs, and that's what it is, because it's no different than the car dealership. People will pay, if they have the funds, obviously, to go to a higher end car dealership. Why? The stores are beautiful. The people treat them nicely. You sit in the waiting room and there's not a Coke machine that you have to put a quarter into. There's free coffee, there's desserts, right? Like, it's all about elevated experience that makes you feel valued.
And guess what? After that elevated experience where you feel amazing, you tell your friends, and it
Correct.
extends that experience. It's the two friends tell two friends tell two friends. And I think that that's the halo effect of an incredible experience. It's storytelling. So whether it's you get a great box of something in the mail with a thank you from the owner, or you have a great, service experience in the chair at Nordstrom buying makeup, you leave that and inevitably you tell somebody. And then it resonates and they think, okay, you get a little mind share. Next time I need makeup, maybe I'll go to that counter at Nordstrom and see if I can't find that woman and sit in that chair. So I think that there's so much value to the store experience, and there's so many avenues to extend an incredible immersive experience that you can't necessarily calculate an ROI on. But if you were a true shopkeeper, in your heart of hearts that experience, if it's really good, gets shared and shared and shared, and that drives traffic.
We as human beings only share two types of things: the awesome and the awful.
Right.
I don't know what you and your husband did last night, but if it was just you aren't telling anybody about it.
Right.
If it was incredible, you're telling everybody. I went out last night, had a really good time, but had an awful experience at the restaurant.
Oh, shoot.
And I'm going to tell everybody about it, because I'm not going to make sure that nobody goes back there. Those are the two things that we share, right? So
and as a merchant, you probably do this too. I go to restaurants and I try and just take my operator hat off, but I can't help it. So I'll sit and I'll look at the bar and think, God, they did a great job, but their lighting is too bright. They did a great job with this menu, but the paper is wrinkled. They did a good job with the overall design, but the lights are actually too bright in total. So yeah, it's hard. And those are the things that if I could find the owner, I'd share with them. What I'm surprised at when I go into a restaurant on a Friday or a Saturday night, if I don't see or kind of am able to spot out the owner, I'm shocked. And I keep saying to people, that would have been like in my day that we weren't in stores on a Saturday. Like, that's showtime.
Right.
That's showtime. So if a retailer isn't there on a Saturday, or if a restaurant owner isn't there on a Friday and Saturday night to hopefully ensure an incredible experience, shame on you. That's showtime. You should be there.
Well, we were livid last night, and we're driving home, and my friends are like, you need to call the owner. To me, I'm the spokesman. I'm like, what am I going to call the owner for? Like, they've made this, they have a restaurant policy that is, we got our bill. I've never seen this before. We got our bill, and at the bottom of the bill, it says the amount, and it says a 22% service charge has been added to your bill. And it's circled, and with handwriting, the waitress wrote, "This is not a gratuity."
No way.
And at the bottom of the bill, printed, it says, we've elected to pay our staff more. So we've added a 22% service charge. This is not a gratuity. Please feel free to add more to it.
We had this happen to us. It was actually 10% and we were annoyed. We couldn't believe it. It's
Okay. I've
because,
seen 3,
yeah,
I've seen 6,
but 22 is
22%.
egregious. That's
So you're basically,
egregious.
so you're asking people to tip 40%.
Crazy.
And the reality is, my point was, charge 20% more on the bill.
Right.
Nobody's going to say boo. Nobody's
Right.
going to say, oh, either you're going to order the expensive things or you're not. Nobody's going to say
Right.
a word. Like, but to stick that on the bill, and every table around us was talking about it.
Yeah, that's a nail in their coffin. And you know what? You only
Right.
get so many chances. I think that's the
I'm
key.
talking
It's
to you
like,
on a podcast. I've
yep.
taken pictures. I'm going to put it on all my social media
Ah,
and tell all my friends not to go there.
yep. Shame on them. It's, you know what? I think it's a symptom of doing things without zooming out and thinking about how does this impact customers? If you have like a customer-centric approach to any of these, whether it's retailing, whether it's food and beverage, hospitality, you have to, as the owner operator, put yourself in the customer's shoes. I often say, like, if you're in charge of your store, when was the last time you actually walked outside and looked at it outside in as if you were a customer? What do you see? What stands out? So if that owner, the person that agreed to do that on your bill, thought about it and thought, wow, if I was in a New York restaurant, how would I react? But there's like a nonsense to this. They're not actually thinking it through from a customer point of view.
And I'll take the other lens. They're not thinking of it from the employee sense, because
Absolutely.
they're putting their people on the front line of people getting pissed.
I think you're right. Yes. And then the employee is the recipient of all that, and they're actually not at fault.
So she says to us, if you guys are mad, how do you think we feel?
Oh, gosh. Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's pivot a little bit. I'm with you. We have to take as granted no retailer, online, in store, or omni, is going to survive without great product. Okay. If you don't have great product, so we have to take it as a given. So let's just park that.
Mm-hmm.
And I happen to believe you. I sign up. Smart retailers recognize the fact that the Holy Grail is bringing people to store.
Mm-hmm.
It's great that people shop online, but if you can magically encourage them to buy online, pick up in store, that is really the Holy Grail.
Right.
And then whatever you can do in store to reduce friction,
Yep.
to make it easier. I've talked here numerous times about the ridiculousness of those lockup cases at Target and other places now that are increasing friction.
Right.
But how retail's struggling. So you and I are sitting here and we're sounding like we're very smart, and it seems
Mm-hmm.
so basic. But why are so few getting it, and why are so many struggling?
Yeah, I don't envy the retailers today. I think it's really challenging. I think there's some big kind of macro issues working against them. I think that there's supply chain issues still, and largely it's really the effect is just increase in price. I still think we're overstored. We're overspaced. Stores are actually in the wrong locations with the wrong adjacencies. So when you think about the customer, most suburban customers want localization. They want to actually eat and shop within a certain circumference of their own home. And yet you've got these malls that are big and far away, or urban centers that just aren't as relevant anymore. And there's just not enough lifestyle centers for customers to go and do more than just shop. So you need food and beverage, you need service, and you need product. But let's take that aside. I'd say retailers, the challenge today is how do they stand out? And retailers by nature are historians. They love to look backwards. We did it every day. We did it every Monday. We did it every month. You're looking at, how did I do against last year, yesterday, by class, by SKU, by brand. And there's kind of an uncomfortableness about looking forward where it's unknown. And that's where I think you need now, you have to, as a retailer, you have to be leveraging machine learning and AI, but you can't do it in isolation of without smart humans. You actually have to have leaders that have vision, that have instinct, and have the courage to actually go and do something different. So my experience in a lot of stores is it's really safe. Product is key, but the product is not that compelling. I just was in New York a week ago and I shopped stores for 2 straight days. And I could tell you on one hand, the exciting store experiences I had. There's a lot of repurposed old product. There's a lot of duplication. There's high prices. So I think that from a product standpoint, everyone could improve. And then once you go in, you have to, as a brand, as a retailer, you have to make that experience really special, because people are making a split-second decision. You're walking in, you're doing a little bit of a go to the right, look at the back, go to the left, walk out. That's kind of how humans traffic stores. If you don't capture them in those seconds, not even minutes, you've lost them. So I think that the challenge is, yes, it's product, but it's more than just product. It's great prices, great experience, something unique, something captivating, and something just forward looking. We don't need to go into a store and buy a replacement of what we already have. We need something great. And then you need humans that are going to greet you, help you, serve you. And that's when you'll finally part with your hard-earned money.
So I agree with you that stores are too big. Talk to us about why that's a problem today.
Sorry, Jonah, looks like I'm just going to make sure my Wi-Fi is good, because it looks like
I can hear you. Yep. No,
you can hear me? Okay.
Perfectly. I'll repeat the question in case you didn't hear it. I agree with you that stores are too big, but explain to everyone why that's a problem.
Well, let's talk about department stores. Department stores are too big because most of them were built kind of in that boom 80s, 90s timeframe when bigger was better. And everyone thought they needed more space, and you didn't have inventory constraints. You even go in like an old Nike town or Nike, whatever you call those stores, and that even was way too big. I think it's because you didn't have data and information to make smart decisions around inventory. So you thought you needed every classification in 12 colors times 12 sizes in every location. And I think that if people start to use machine learning, AI, and instinct and make better decisions, you can actually have more productive stores with a lot less square feet and a more inviting, conducive shopping experience.
Right. So there's the business side of it, which is you have too much stuff in a store that's not selling. But what about the effect on the consumer on having such a big store? Because there's that too, right?
Yeah, it's too time consuming. I just don't think that, I think consumers, we all are in this, they should know me better. The Amazon, I think it started with Apple, but I think it's really the kind of Amazon, Netflix effect, where serve up more of what you know I'll like because you know me based on my browsing history or my past purchases. And so I think that we all kind of expect that you're going to know me, serve up what I like, serve up what I need, and get rid of the kind of distractions. And so I think the department stores face a real challenge because they've got square footage that they need to fill. They've got brand relationships that are contingent upon a certain amount of inventory to fill a certain amount of space. So I think that why the specialty stores and verticals are winning is because it's an easier concept, easier format to shop. You know exactly what you're going to get when you walk into a Madewell. You're going to get 8 silhouettes of denim times 4 colors in 8 sizes. So to shop denim in a Madewell, it's pretty easy.
Right.
Unfortunately, to shop denim at Nordstrom is like you need a couple hours. There's every brand times every silhouette times every color, and largely, sorry, but out of stock. So you might go to the fitting room and try, and then they all fit different. So I'd say from a consumer standpoint, we all want kind of an edited, curated selection. That's just because you got too much kind of distraction going on in your mind anyway. Make it simple, make it easy.
And then there's the whole notion of scarcity. And that is that the higher up the food chain you go, scarcity is actually a good thing. So it's one thing if you go to the Gap or Banana Republic and you want the white t-shirt and you want it in every shape and every size and every color. But as you start getting into things that are a little bit nicer, if you will, she doesn't want everyone to have the same thing.
Right.
So you don't need that many square feet because you don't have that much inventory, right?
Right. Well, and I think that one something we haven't talked about is, inventory is the second largest capital expense for a retailer after, employee headcount and everything that goes along with a fixed cost relative to just running the business. So if you think about inventory and the opportunity to improve inventory efficiency, and I think an under leveraged tool is replenishment. And if you could use replenishment as a tool in stores, you don't have to own what you own. And then you can trick customers into thinking you actually only have 6 or 12. But the point is that as soon as you sell 1 or 2 of those 6 or 12 that's available in a store, your system can flag replenishment and bring that back in 48 hours if you've got a robust replenishment system in the queue.
So the whole notion of fast fashion. First, can you explain to the Joe and Jane who doesn't know what that is?
Well, fast fashion it's the type of clothing it is for the customer is cheap and disposable. For the retailer, it's delivered and turned over, which is a retail terminology, about 24 to 48 times a year.
What does that mean? Yeah. So what does turned over mean?
So turnover is the time from when it arrives in the store to when it's completely sold out and then you get it again. So if you had a 12-time turn, if you were a men's retailer selling zip jackets like you're wearing and you had a 12-time turn, that means that every month you would get your stock of zip hoodie or zip half zips. And by the end of the month, you'd be completely out. So you'd get a new replenishment, a new assortment of stock. Every single month, it would be brand new.
Right.
So if you are turning 24 times, that means every 15 days, your entire stock is turning over brand new. Imagine everything in your refrigerator would go every single thing in the refrigerator. You start on December 1 and by December 31, it's 0 empty.
Yeah.
So then imagine December 1 to December 15, that's a 24-time turn. It's 0, it's empty. If you're at 48 turn, or let's even say a 36-time turn, that means like every 10 days, you are turning over 100% of your product. So by virtue of that, it's manufactured really quickly. It's made at the lowest cost possible. In many cases, it's compromising all kinds of environmental kind of standards, if you will. The way it's not shipped, it's flown. And that's how the retailers, carved out their niche. Let's talk about Forever 21. And that entire store, and those would be big stores in big shopping malls throughout the country. At their height, they probably had 800 stores. They would turn over their entire store at least twice a month. Every single product would be brand new. The customers loved it because they could arrive on a Friday 1 week and on a Monday 10 days later and have a completely new wardrobe for pennies compared to other retailers. So that notion of fast fashion is a whole kind of segment in itself. And it really challenged traditional retailers that were buying, name brand, national brands, because they couldn't compete. They couldn't compete with the freshness of product.
So yeah, Forever 21 doing its thing, and let's not pick on them. There was lots of them.
Oh yeah, yes.
And they were disruptors, right?
Yeah.
And when you say disposal, people would wear it a couple of times, like not the usual. I've had this sweater for 2 years now. People would wear it a couple of times, and literally either to the Goodwill box or to the garbage it would go.
Yeah, and then with the just like explosion of social media and people are photographing themselves all the time, it just fueled that.
But now it's gone to a new level because now there's online retailers. I always butcher the name, like Shein.
Shein, yeah.
So what's the difference there? Because that's even faster than fast, right?
It is. And there's, like you said, we're talking kind of the OG when we mentioned Forever 21, Shein being kind of one of the largest online. But, the social selling created an environment where these brands can pop up every single day. And if they are smart about leveraging the algorithm of social media, they can get into your feed through sponsored ads or through paid search or you name it. And some can survive. The markup on the product is tremendous because the cost per piece is pennies. They can maintain an audience if that's what the customer's priorities are, which is, I would say, cheap and cheerful. Cheap and cheerful. I want to get it. I want to pay X amount for a party, a trip, a this or that, and then I'm going to dispose of it.
Right, and that's what Shein has done, right? It has completely taken over on social media.
Yep.
And people are now buying stuff online that they see as a trend, and they're buying it for pennies and wearing it once or twice and tossing it.
Right. And I think what it's done is actually are you there? Yep, we're there.
You did freeze there for a second, but you're back.
It's all but, I think destroyed might be too heavy of a word, but
watered down,
eroded and really adversely affected what we traditionally called the juniors market in the industry. So when I first got my big VP role at Nordstrom, it was over all of juniors and contemporary. And juniors was basically defined like our core customer was a 17-year-old high school junior. That was the core customer. And back in the height of it, she was wearing, a pair of jeans, Ugg boots, a t-shirt, and like a North Face hoodie. And that's the section and the life stage that has completely been just like eroded by fast fashion. Because that high school girl and even that like early college, post-college, they're just going through its quantity over quality. And so fast fashion, it's interesting because you've got people that can care about sustainability and environmental issues, but it flies in the face of their preferences that I just want fresh and new for a party, a game day, or a
and their budget.
Yeah, and their budget.
And especially when they're only going to wear it once or twice. And they're good with that because the reality is, for those of you in listening land, you're wearing a beautiful black sweater. Respectfully, it's just a beautiful black sweater. I mean, I can't see the detail, but
right.
And maybe it's cashmere, maybe it's not, but I hope hopefully it's made well. It's great. I'm sure it's you, so I'm sure it's a great product. But the reality is, it doesn't have to be, the really cool flannel shirt that's really in right now at this exact moment because someone wore it last night on the awards show. If they can buy it tomorrow on Shein.com and it's $15.99, it's only good as it is tomorrow because next week someone's worn something different and they don't need it anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's really changed the industry. We used to, when I was running all of women's, and dresses was a real source of strength and growth at a period of time. When any of the award shows would happen, the Emmys, the Grammys, the Oscars, we would all be glued to the TV to watch the red carpet, to watch kind of the most popular styles and colors. And then the very next morning, we'd be on the phone with our vendor partners in New York to put those into work to get those as quick as possible. And at that time, as quick as possible was 2 to 3 months,
Right.
which
And
actually
now?
was lightning speed. Now we're talking 2 to 3 weeks at most in store.
Right.
So it's really just changed, and it's a huge part of the industry. And I think it's, if I was running women's today, we would be challenged on how to compete and decide, is that where we want to go long, or do we want to go short on juniors, knowing that our customer loves us, but they've got different priorities and we can't deliver on that. We'll never compete on fast fashion from a style and price perspective and a delivery kind of velocity. So, allocation of space would be in question. Organizational structure and how many people do you need? Maybe you would do some, partnerships and in-store pop-ups where you could have like a Shein pop-up in the store, and maybe it was for X amount of time. I don't know. You'd have to get really creative if you were sitting in that operator's seat to think about how you would compete, if at all, and how you would service your customer, because it really comes down to service. Do they want to buy fast fashion from you or not?
See, I think, not surprising to my audience, it comes down to a very, very important question. And that is purpose.
Yeah.
What is your brand purpose? Who are you and who is your customer? And if you're trying to be something to a certain customer, they are going to lose faith and lose trust in you if you veer away from that purpose and start offering product or services that are misaligned to that purpose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's either Burberry or there's another one of those brands that did that became maybe it was Coach, that became very mainstream on a brand that was more elevated.
Right.
And they were never forgiven for it. And I think is it Madewell that they used to make traditionally shoes, and then they kind of veered off into something? Who is it? Allbirds. Sorry.
Yeah.
Allbirds was all shoes, and they had a great reputation as shoes, and then they veered off into everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And once they did that, everyone's like, whoa, wait a minute. You're the shoe people. Like, what's all this other stuff? And now they're going back to just shoes. And I think that if you don't understand your value proposition, and if you don't understand who your customer is, you better be careful what you're offering to them and who they are before you start veering off into different types of qualities and types of products. That's me. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I get called often about, helping brands and retailers with growth plans, with growth strategy. And they think it's a real quick fix. So like if it's a footwear brand, help us do apparel. We want to do, athleisure for women at this price, with this kind of seasonality. And I always say, wait, stop. We got to back up. We got to go back to the drawing board and really get religion on your customer.
Right.
Like really understand your customer. Who are they from a psycho perspective, age, lifestyle, behaviors, priorities, preferences. And only when you really understand all those things about your customer and the segmentation and what matters, can you then vet growth plans. And so I think in the case of Allbirds, when you really broke it down and you really understood that guy or that woman and understood their lifestyle and their preferences, it probably wasn't going to work to extend into categories like denim and knits and sweaters and wovens. But I think that there's that tendency that, well, wait, we've got this guy and he loves our shoes and he loves comfort. So let's make a denim that has a 4-way stretch and then a sustainable t-shirt made out of hemp and a sweater that actually has like a wicking property so he can actually like ride his bike to work. And they've kind of missed a bunch in that path between the shoes and that wicking sweater. And those kinds of mistakes are made, frequently and accidentally by virtue of the fact that they are not getting really grounded in the customer and then in the competitive set and where they can play and if they could actually deliver on what's important to the customer.
So it sounds to me, I'm going to put words in your mouth, that if you were a retailer and I were going to give you a whack of dough, your major investment would be in first-party data.
Absolutely. Well, it's in technology and the right systems with the right questions to then make sure I get the right data that can answer my questions. I think that data for data's sake is actually or has the risk of paralyzing retailers, and they're looking at way too much and not like the bookends. Look at what's the most important to fuel your business. Look at the stuff that's just bogging you down, rule out the middle. I think that there's so much data available that you could pour over it and then not even know what to do with it. I'm a big believer in, what do you want to do with your business? What decisions do you want to make? What outcome do you want to affect? And what do you need to actually make a faster, smarter decision? Go look at that data and look at it in a short form. And then, of course, once you look at a short form, then you're going to have more questions, but start with less, not more.
Last question on the topic of questions. So you were just in New York, you were just in Bellevue, you travel around, you're in Texas, you're all over the place. Who's doing it great? Because I go to a mall, the two busiest stores consistently that I see are the Apple store.
Yep.
No matter where you go, that store is always packed.
Yep.
And the other one is like Aloe Yoga. That's the hot one right now.
That's funny you said that, because yesterday in Bellevue, Aloe Yoga was busy. It was busy. It's beautiful. And what I really like is it's of course in like the marquee location in the mall, like front and center waterfront property. It's actually a smaller space than the last two superstores I've been in. So I think they're getting smarter that you don't need 3,000 square feet. You can do it and do it better and be more efficient about your inventory and smarter about your product assortment in 1,500 to 1,800 square feet. And I think if I'm correct, in the Bellevue store, they didn't have men's, because I know they've been testing.
They do. It's squished into the back. They don't have a lot.
Okay. I actually would say the busiest store, and I'd say the most kind of fun and productive experience was Sephora.
Okay.
It was jam-packed. They were staffed better than anybody. And as a retailer, I'm always looking at that. They have people at the entrance at the mall greeting you, offering you the little basket. They've got people walking around that are promoting different product lines. They are doing makeovers. They're offering to help. They're staffed front to back, side to side really well. They had gift with purchases. They had promos. They were in stock on every single item. So I'd say that from a bare bones, what you should be doing well on a busy pre-holiday weekend day in a mall, they got a 9 out of a 10, if not a 10 out of a 10. They did it really well.
So to me, they get a 7. And the reason they get a 7 is their staff don't have devices to check you out and you have to wait in that line.
Yeah, actually, that's true. And if I was to add just another, like if I lowered my grade to an 8.5, when it's crowded like that, it's hard to navigate. You feel like you're about to knock over an end cap. Yeah.
Right.
I would say from a product standpoint, Nordstrom main floor, I didn't go up the escalator. Shoes, handbags, and beauty was as good as it's been in a long time.
So when you were in New York, who's doing it well? You said only a couple of stores were doing it well. Who's doing it well?
Yeah, I'd say in New York,
Because
some of
that's the
the
Mecca.
yeah, some of the freestanding vertical brands, I think Golden Goose is
Okay.
continues to reinvent. The experience when you go in the store is phenomenal. There's another brand I loved. It's called Gani.
How do you
And the
spell it?
way
Hang
they're
on. How do you spell
using
it? Mr. Producer will put it up.
GANNI, the way they're using in-store visual screens inside and outside is amazing. Alexander Wang always pops up. I was down in Soho. You could tell from kind of the stores I'm referencing. Zara is always exciting. I think they do a great job of turning over their product with high velocity in that Soho flagship store. And then just a lot of little home stores I'm seeing. And then Ashley Longshore is an artist, and I think her store is just freaking amazing.
So New York, I love. I can't remember what part of town it is. I apologize, but uh, the Mad Happy store in New York is one of my favorites,
Yeah.
and because they turn their stuff over a lot,
Yep.
and they have great staff there, and I love the Aviator Nation store. I think it's like pretty much right next to it,
Yep.
and that whole area has those kind of fun, hip, younger brands.
Yep. It
Great
might be,
music.
is it down in the meat packing maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That whole
I'm a
area is
big,
great.
yeah, and I'm a big believer in these exciting, time capped pop-ups. I think for retailers, if they are wanting to kind of dip into this omni-channel experience, but maybe a physical store sounds like too much of a commitment from cost, people, build out, inventory. I would really encourage people where it makes sense, where their customer is already, to find little pop-up opportunities. Maybe it's a shop and shop within a store that has too much space. Maybe it's in a little side street in New York. Maybe it's a hotel lobby. Maybe it's South Congress in Austin. But those pop-ups for people like me, where I don't shop a lot when I'm at home. I shop when I'm either in New York or I'm in Austin, or maybe I'm traveling overseas. But that's the time where you have this captive audience, if you're in the right location, to actually physically engage with the customer without this huge kind of overwhelming, investment of having like a physical store over too much time.
I could talk on this for hours, as you and I usually do when we see each other. It's one of my favorite topics. I'm very passionate about it, as you can see. I
Me
genuinely appreciate you coming on. I'm going to ask that we do this actually semi-regularly. As things come up, I'd love to have you come on and just do a regular chit chat on, oh my God, did you hear about X? I think the audience would really like it. And I would ask that if you see something really cool that we could talk about, that we bring it up as a topic, we can flash it up on the screen. And just, I think it's really interesting. I think the evolution right now of direct to consumer and those brands. I was just with somebody from Kendra Scott. What's happening there is really interesting.
She just opened another concept last week on South Congress.
So he told me, this isn't, sorry for interrupting. He just told me that they do 88% of their revenue in Q4. Did you know that?
No, but it makes sense because I have two friends that work there and they cannot even break away for a glass of wine. But she's a trailblazer. She just opened up a new concept called Yellow Rose. It's kind of, the jewelry is obviously her heart and soul and where she built the brand. But this Yellow Rose is including head to toe, everything from hats to boots and what you or she would or I would wear. Some branded, some private branded collabs. I'm so excited to go see that.
Well, again, I think that I'd love to have you on just to talk about whatever is going on. Maybe it's once a quarter, just interesting things that you're seeing. I think it's a really cool topic. Retail development and technology is very interesting and passion of mine. Mm-hmm. I think there's there's people who do it, but I don't think there's people who do it as well as you. And I'd love to have you come back.
Well, thank you. I would love to. I'm just such a retailer at heart, and I think, pre-pandemic, I probably wrote, and a lot of other people wrote about this retail apocalypse. We're long past that. We're in such a transformation, and it's really fun to see the winners and what they're doing. And then if there's any way we can inspire these people that are kind of trying to catch up, whether it's technology, it's product, it's promotion, it's ideas, maybe that's going to be something that we can kind of spread the word on.
Well, to me, there's three industries that are actually very closely aligned, and people think I'm nuts. And it's sports, tech, and retail. And the reason why is they're all fast.
They are.
And they're all aligned that way. And if you're not active and if you're not staying current in the three of them, you're done. And that's what I really like about the three of them. And again, I cannot thank you enough for your time. This was fantastic, and we hope to have you back soon.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We will see you next time in the press.
Great. Thank you.